I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we're talking also right now, is because there is an ongoing initiative, which is the game of NFTs. That is a hackathon that should also onboard new projects, I guess, and also more builders and developers. And there's different tracks, right? So I think today is specialized on the Cosmos Hub track. That's why we also have Jihan in the house. I don't know who wants to take this, but maybe can you provide a high-level overview of that initiative, like how it started, what's the purpose, and where do we currently stand?
Mike, I think.
Yes.
Maybe Mike, you start.
Yeah. So regarding game of NFTs, right? So kind of like so ICS 721, we've been working on this for a while, and it was originally kind of IrisNet that developed the protocol spec. Stargaze came in and developed the CosmWasm implementation. IrisNet did the SDK NFT implementation, and we were working with Gravity Bridge, and we got this idea of kind of doing kind of like where we had Game of Zones, but to do that for NFTs, so Game of NFTs. And we worked with IrisNet to raise some funding from the Atom Pool. And then for this, that was phase 1. And then for phase 2, each chain is kind of has their own, say, like, stars where you can get the different tracks. And in the phase 1, we have just testing the security of the protocol. There's some interesting stories from that. And then in phase 2, people are developing actual applications and tools that could be used with ICS 721.
Maybe Sisla, you can share your views on and your involvement also with Omniflix and the initiative.
Yeah, definitely. As Mike mentioned, we were also first part of the Discord channel that was on the Gravity Bridge Discord server, and we went ahead, coordinated or rather collaborated with teams, or rather I'll say we were part of it initially and followed along. And when around January or like December, January, when Game of NFTs was being discussed, we were very excited, having been part of events like Game of Stakes, Game of Zones, Game of Change as well. We wanted to see this happen for NFTs as well, and for people to hack away on the infrastructure and build some really interesting, useful tooling. And I'll say, yeah, the efforts went very well, coordinated, by Iris Network, and they went above and beyond to make sure all of this happened with the proposals, with the interactions with multiple teams, the independent calls with multiple teams, helping them understand what was happening. And we had, few collaborations or collaborators on the way as well, in the form of Juno, in the form of Osmosis, Arc Protocol, and some of the others, that were in general helping out. And this made sure that the hackathon was put together, that both the phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 primarily involved multiple teams being able to try out the entire protocol, the modules, the contracts, on Stargaze, Juno, the native module on Omniflix, Iris, and Uptick. So this was the effort that went into the first half of the, or being able to put together the first half of the Game of NFTs, right? Like the event. If that was one, we had people like Empower Chain, Disperse, again, Arc Protocol, all of these guys that built tooling. Omniflix also contributed with an interface for Game of NFTs. We first started off with Iris, then Stargaze. We built a UI to make sure that NFTs were able to, you could create NFTs as well as transfer them just using the UI. It was a developer-first experience. Personally, I didn't utilize the command line to interact with ICS 721 or the NFT transfer modules myself. So went ahead and got this product done. And, even during the proposal phase, we observed a lot of the Cosmos community members actually, I'll say, mention that this was only for developers. How can normal people actually access this entire tooling and participate? So just for that, although it was not like incentivized, we went ahead, built that UI. And that was like our first contribution to make sure all of this was like visual and tangible enough for people to understand. The second part is about the hackathon and the challenges. And, we see So we went ahead with something much more generic, something that's not a marketplace, but say utilize DeFi, Cosmos, and ICS and the ICS 721 protocol. That was like our challenge. It was much more generic. Stargaze, I think, has an excellent challenge that actually captures the utility, and we'll soon implement Cosmos on Omniflix too. So we are very excited to see all that's being built in the hackathon.
Yeah. And yeah, Mike, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so I was just going to mention, so like I said, this has been in development since November 2021, which was when the spec first came out with Iris. And I recently gave a talk in Hong Kong at a Web3 festival. Actually, finally got to meet IrisNet IRL, which is pretty fun. And it's interesting because it's a community effort, right? So we have multiple chains working on this, but in addition, it's also international efforts. So it's kind of like very true to the core, something that's supposed to be flexible and used by lots of different people.
Yeah, I think that's also in the true Cosmos spirit, out collaborating the competition and just sovereign teams. In the end of the day, still being aligned and working together on these things. Maybe Jihan, can you share a little bit about at what point does Cosmos have shared security? When does all that come in, and what is the development been so far on that end?
Well, I mean, yeah, in general or in relation to this hackathon?
Yeah, I mean, in relationship to the hackathon, like, is there any projects so far that's been submitted that are potentially exploring using shared security of the hub, or?
We haven't. I don't think we've reviewed the submitted projects yet. But the track for the Cosmos Hub is if you have an NFT project that uses replicated security, or possibly if it's built, if it's intended to be built on Neutron, which is using replicated security. So that's what we're going to be focusing on for the Cosmos Hub track. I think. Well, one project, I don't know if this qualifies, but one project when I spoke to one of the organizers from IrisNet, I forgot his name right now, but he was working on a project for an NFT lending protocol, which could be a replicated security consumer chain. So, for us, it's not really necessarily about specific features of how it deals with the NFTs or anything, but it's if you're doing something that requires a high level of security and you think it might work well as a consumer chain or to be launched on a consumer chain, that's what we'll be looking at.
Yeah.